Hello. Good evening. Nice to see you. Nice. So here we are. Yeah. Sorry about the lighting. My partner told me it was too messy to put the book thing in the background, but when you have white behind you, it really messes with the camera. So if it sort of like is flaring up and going too white and then not, that's why. I need to like paint a wall which is like beige, just for filming YouTube. Nice. So how are you this evening? I hope everybody is well. So to get in quickly to the stream, so just to tell you how it works. So basically, if you want to ask questions, then you do so through Skype. My Skype address is LisaCairns12. So it's LisaCairns12. So you can just send me a friend request. And if you want to like call in, then you need to have a microphone, so a headset with a microphone and good internet connection. And it's maybe wise to like check what's going on beforehand, like to do a like Skype test call just to make sure that it's working okay. Yes. What else? I can't think of what else. Yes. I do these talks every 6 p.m. French time, so you're welcome to join. I always do a bit of a meditation before. I don't normally start, like I normally put on my waiting video for 5 or 10 minutes before the talk. So if you join at 6, you normally have to wait while people join. Because I noticed I used to start at 6 o'clock and people hadn't joined yet. So I do that. Can't think of anything else, so we shall begin. Oh yeah, maybe I just do some quick advertisements. So I just post one video a week on my channel. My channel is Lisa Cairns. Yeah, that's it, Lisa Cairns. So you can see that, and that's the whole unedited clip. So all this jumble mumble will be going on there. Then there's another guy that's totally independent from me. I don't pay them. They're not employed by me. They just do it because they're passionate about it, and they edit all the videos and they make them into little clips, and it's called Lisa Cairns video clips. So you're welcome to subscribe to that. But that's totally independent to me. But it's really beautiful. He does that. He puts them all into categories, into titles, and also he takes out all my nonsense, the dogs barking, all these types of things. Yes. What else? Oh yeah, and I'm going to start doing courses at some point. I think it will be courses for 15 people, and I think it's going to happen every other Saturday for like a 2-month period. So it's like 4 classes. And I think that because I'm so booked up from sessions, I can't really start it till October. But I will post it on my Facebook page when it's ready. So if that's something you'll be interested in, maybe good to subscribe to my Facebook page or subscribe to my website so you find out when that's ready and when I'm going to start advertising it. And it will be a course. So each week I'll do a different subject, like chakras, emotional release, like non-duality, and then all of that combined. I haven't quite worked it out. Okay, so we shall begin. So I always like to start the talk with some meditating and just sitting still and doing nothing. So you're welcome to join me for that. If you're watching the recorded version, then of course you can just fast forward to when I start yakking. Fast forward. So with the meditation, people always think that, okay, I've got to meditate to get somewhere. So it always sounds very prescriptive. And in some ways you could say it is. It's like baking a cake. It's like there is like different ways to do it. But the catch is when you're being taught by a non-dual teacher, is the non-dual teacher will point you and get you to question, like, who is the one that believes it's meditating? So the one that thinks, okay, I am meditating and I'm going to get somewhere, and I am doing this, I am choosing to do this. But who is that? Who is the person that's doing that? So it appears like I am giving prescription to you, but actually that's an impossibility. There is things happening, and there is an appearance of choice to do it or not do it, but that doesn't mean there's actually somebody there choosing. Like, if we really go into the depth of what it is to be human, choice is a very abstract idea that we have invented. So whenever somebody teaches it from a non-dual perspective, they're not meaning to imply that there's somebody there that could do something to arrive somewhere. The other part is that the non-dual teacher isn't also saying there is somebody that could get enlightened, because who would be this person that would get enlightened? So again, we think we're going to meditate and I'm going to become enlightened. But who would that be? Who would become enlightened? So maybe you believe that who you are is like conditions and habits and ways of thinking, so they'll become enlightened. And I reckon that meditation will calm those down. So meditation will like calm down your habits, your beliefs, your conditions, your suffering. But there isn't actually an entity there that could become enlightened. Like, really, enlightenment already is. There is just an identification with a full structure that believes that it's somebody moving in time, and that creates seeking and that creates suffering. Done. All done. Everyone understands. Now we move on. So when you meditate, it's like baking a cake. You're following instructions and you think that you're doing it, but actually it's a happening. The following instructions happen. And the reason that that's so important is because the predisposition of most people when they come to these talks is that I'm a separate entity and that I'm living my life. But who is living their life, and who is this separate entity? Cool. Got that? So now we are going to move on to meditation. There's 3 different techniques I recommend, and there are so many amazing meditations out there. And I'm not saying that these are the best. These are just the ones that I grew up with and I know. So number 1 is the mindfulness of breathing. And this is so simple. All you have to do is count every time you take a breath in. So that when I was taught it, it was like as soon as you feel the air going into your nose, you follow it in, up your nose, into your lungs, down into your diaphragm, and then out again. And every time you breathe in, you count 1, and then you count 2, so ascending, 3, ascending, 4, ascending, up to 10. All you have to do is get to number 10, and then you come back to 1. That's it. That's the whole meditation. And that's called the mindfulness of breathing. And it's really clever because what happens often is you drift into thought and you still carry on counting. So you get up to like 996 and then you're like, oh crap, I was meant to like start again at 10. It's really clever. And it doesn't mean that you're more happy or you're more free if you keep doing it and you're never going past 10. It's just about attention. And attention doesn't mean enlightenment. Attention just means the ability to focus the mind, and the mind is an instrument. And the reason that that reduces suffering is because often our mind is drifting off into the unconscious, and people have like disturbances in their unconscious often. Like a lot of people have a tendency when they go off into the unconscious to be negative. And so this creates like negative feelings, negative emotions, negative ideas. And so the focusing of attention is bringing it back to the present moment. So you're not just going off into your unconscious and creating these storms inside of you. So for example, you might have like a difficult interaction with your boss at work, and then when you're just like resting or watching TV or talking to your partner, there's a part of your brain that's thinking about what an asshole your boss is and how dare they do this to you. And all the time your body's getting fired up, creating all these chemicals and all these unconscious stories that you've told yourself a billion times before. So this is simply a technique. It's not going to get you enlightened. It's a technique the same as like cognitive therapy or attachment therapy or behavioral therapy, holotropic breathing, or all different exercises to do to relax the sense of self. But it's not that person that becomes enlightened. That is an illusory self. It's habits and conditions which do this practice. And habits and conditions aren't a separate entity. There isn't somebody there that could get enlightened. They're just habits and conditionings appearing, but there's not this solid entity. And they reduce those habits and conditions, and then more than likely that which is beyond the habits and conditions is seen. But that's not the goal. Like the person's like not going to reduce its conditions and then become enlightened. Like who would become enlightened? Who are you? Okay, so moving on to the next one is the movement to the I am, or to consciousness. So you're just sitting there and you're just moving your attention back to I am, or back to consciousness. So I am, or back to that empty looking. And then the third one, so again, that's again a practice of focusing attention. And then the third one is so simple. All you have to do is sit there and you just let your mind do whatever it wants to do. And unlike the other ones, so the other one is like practicing the focus. The idea of this one is it's like a shaken up fizzy drink, and you're taking the lid off and you're just letting the bubbles settle down. And whichever one you feel attracted to. And I have no problem that either one, that the two different practices are kind of implying different things. So you've got one that is just like letting it do whatever it wants and then it settles down. And then the other one is saying, no, we've got to focus the mind. And through focusing the mind settles down. And I have no problem that they contradict each other. The idea that anybody knows right or anyone knows how it is just an idea. So you pick whatever you feel to pick and whatever resonates for you. You can try different ones. Different days, different things. We just present it and we see what happens. We could do a test statistically, which is better, but which seems to have more effect, but that would be so hard to tell, and in a way is so irrelevant. So we do that. Before we do that, I actually thought that we could do a breathing exercise. This is something that I've never done with you guys before, but it's super amazing. It's just a really simple breathing exercise. I got it from another teacher, obviously. I hope it's okay that it's not copyrighted, this breathing exercise. But I just do it, and if that is the case, then I'll deal with that afterwards. I won't tell you what teacher it's from. Okay, so basically I will do it with you, but I just might mute my microphone at points. So mute it so it doesn't like irritate you, the sound of me breathing. Basically, we're going to breathe in. So big breath in, and then big breath out. All the way to the end of your breath. Big breath in. All the way to the end of your breath. So really feel you breathe into your diaphragm and then really push your diaphragm to push all the air out. And you do that 30 times. And then on the 30th time, or 31st or 32nd, you empty all your air, so all air out, and then hold. So you hold your breath as long as you can with all the air pushed out of your mouth or your lungs. And then it gets even more exciting. And then you hold that for as long as you can. And then after you've done that, you then let go, you take a breath in, and you hold that for 15 seconds. So you take the breath in and hold it for 15 seconds. Okay? So you do 30 breaths in and then pushing all your air out. In and then pushing all your air out. And then when you get to 30, you push all your air out and you hold as long as you can. So till you're at the point where you're like not dying, just you're wanting to suck air in, and then you breathe, take a deep breath in and hold for 15 seconds. If you're prone to passing out, like do this lying down, do it so that you can't hurt yourself. And most probably everybody do it lying down. And if you do decide to sit up and you pass out and you hit your head or you knock yourself or something, I have certainly told you that you should lie down, so you can't come and sue me. So lie down, put cushions around you, make sure you're safe. Even if you think, oh, I won't pass out, or she's doing it sitting up, I'm saying don't do that, because if you have an injury, it's not my fault. And I'm also sorry if you have an injury. I don't want for you to be hurt. Okay. I'll maybe leave my microphone on so you can hear it. So now we begin. That's so exciting. So deep breath in, and we go up to 30. Okay, so now we go into meditation. Hello. Okay, here we go. So the title today is non-duality avoidance? Or can non-duality be avoidance? What was it? Is non-duality avoidance? Oh, poor Missy E. Did you hurt your little paw? You want to say hello to Easy? She's just having a little limp because she jumped off the top. Yeah. Hello, Iggy. You say hello to people. You're not going to lick your bottom, are you? Little smell of the paw, nibble of the tail. They're so cute, eh? Okay, she said hello. She's done her part. Now she can lick her bottom in peace. Okay, so is non-duality avoidance? Non-duality isn't anything. It's what we make of it in the end. It's what we tell ourselves, what story we tell ourselves non-duality is. I think from a lot of psychologists' perspective, if they know anything about non-duality, they would say it's avoidance. Not all of them, but a lot of psychologists. They would say it attracts people with detached attachment styles. Detached attachment styles. But non-duality in itself isn't anything but what we make of it. Like each individual has their own personal relationship with that word and with the subject. What we love to do as humans, because we're afraid, so we want to follow people, is we love to think that other people out there have a better knowledge of non-duality than me. And I have to listen to them and I have to learn what non-duality is. Whereas actually somebody that's really inclusive in the way that they're teaching non-duality, they're trying to point back to you and to your own experience, because non-duality is actually everybody's birthright, and it doesn't need to be something that's taught. It's something that you are. It's that which is watching now. It's that which is looking now. It's that which is experiencing now. And I don't have more of it. Your neighbor doesn't have more of it. Other non-dual teachers, Muji or Francis Lucille or Gangaji, they don't have more of non-duality. There is just something that's no longer claiming in them to be a person, to be something limited. But everybody's experience is non-dual, like non-separate. Like that which is watching now isn't separate from everything that is. It's only an idea and an energy that says, I am separate from the wall. I am sitting behind a computer. I am listening to Lisa. In your experience, like deeply in your experience, that isn't the way it is. There is experiencing happening, which isn't separate from anything. And that is absolute love and freedom. This is like the best subject ever. That what is experiencing is absolutely free. When you're identified with the person, so when the energy is like contracted into the person, then there is this attachment to time. And that's not actually talking about the behavior of the person or the way that the person sees things. That's a different subject. It's that your essence is attached to the person. Even though your essence can't really be attached to the person, it feels like that. So it's not talking about the person not being upset because their neighbor is like doing building work in the middle of the night, or because a cat keeps doing peas on their lilies and the lilies keep dying, or the heron comes and eats all their fish. So it's not about the person not being upset about that. It's not about the person not being traumatized. So it's not about the person not being upset when someone, say, reminds them of like a traumatizing experience in childhood, like bullying or name calling or physical abuse. So it's not about not being traumatized by that. That's what most people think. It's not about the person not being passive aggressive, knowing all their dynamics. That begins to get looked at in this experience, and those sorts of things begin to get sorted out. But that's not what non-duality is about. That's what a lot of people believe non-duality is about. They believe that they're an ego and that they've got to clear up their ego and then the ego will become enlightened. The ego normally settles down, and like when the ego is really crowded and in a lot of suffering, it's really wise to settle that down so something else can be known. But that's not what it's about. What it is who is it that's watching that? Because actually the personality is just like the room, it's just like the wind, it's just like the chair, the sound of my voice. It's as impersonal as that. Like, it's not an experiencer. It's just apparently coloring the experience. So if the person is sad, then actually what's experienced, if you really pay attention, is the whole world is sad. If the person is angry, then the whole world is angry. If the person is having like a trauma against something, then that whole world is trauma. Because the person, the world is being looked through the eyes of that person. But the person, so the characteristics, the habits and the conditions aren't actually experiencing. They are also being experienced like the outside world by this infinite nothingness. So right now there is nothing experiencing. And that nothingness is so much nothing that by default it becomes everything. So you could equally say it's everything experiencing. And that doesn't go into time, the person goes into time. Your essence is always here and always present. What goes into time is the person that's like, that person's such a bitch, this person's that, this person's that. That goes into time. And most of the time, that emptiness is identified with that person rather than its pure brilliance of what it is. Whereas that person's thinking is simply conditions appearing in what you are as freedom, in this expansiveness. And that's the freedom. It's like an energetic movement back to what you are. It's not a way of being. It's not a way of acting. It's not behavior. It's not morality. It's not goodness. That's all part of the human. The human's either moral or not, or empathetic or not. That doesn't equal more awakeness. What happens is sometimes these dynamics create lots of seeking, so then it's sort of, the person becomes very dense. So the clouds become very thick. But it's an energetic movement to back to that which is beyond the person. And that's happening right now, and that is free for everyone. Even if you're a serial killer, a dog, a normal human, a cleaner, a bank manager, a rapist, an octopus, a skydiver, bad person, good person. It's free to everybody. It is their essence. We often like to get into these things, and we want to like keep all the bad people out. It's like bad people can't get this, because we have like this affiliation with goodness, but that's only in the human world. Who we are is unconditioned love, so therefore it doesn't care, good or bad, what the person is. Because if it did, it would be conditioned love, and your essence is absolute in unconditioned love. It's this vastness. It's so magical and wonderful. And it's unlike anything that you know in the human world. It's emptiness. It's at homeness. It's not being bound to the confines of your personality structure, even though the personality structure has to carry on playing, otherwise you are dead. You need this personality structure in order to animate the body. If you don't have your robotic responses, then the body's not going to do anything. It's going to get eaten. And I'm not opposed to working on the dynamics. Most of the time in my one-to-one sessions, we're working on the dynamics. I mean, there's only a certain amount that you can talk about non-duality because it's nothing. But most of the time in the one-to-one sessions, we're working on the dynamics, and then the non-duality is brought around the edges. It's seeping in. That's not your freedom. That's not your freedom. There is nothing which is your freedom but this. This is the answer to everything. This. What is the answer to everything. That's so beautiful. That's so powerful. And it's absolute unconditioned love. And it's what's looking now. It's so nice. It's what's looking. It's what you are. Yeah, so I need to go back to the question, original question. So is non-duality avoidance? The personality structure will use non-duality in exactly the same way as it was using everything else in my life beforehand. So your personality structure will, if you're a very insecure and nervous person, then you'll use it as a comfort. You'll use it as a way to try to get close to people. You'll use it as a way to try to get love. If you are an avoidant personality type, then you will use it to try to avoid people. You will use it to try and keep life away. That's what the personality structure does. It's these patterns that play out again and again and again. And so whatever you get into, whether it be Buddhism, whether it be law of attraction, whether it be non-duality, whether it be therapy, you will deal with it in your typical way of dealing with life, which will be conditioned in the first 5 or 6 years of your life. And then it will be cemented through your childhood and your experiences. So if you want to avoid, you will use this to avoid work, to avoid people, to avoid circumstances. If you want to use this to get love and attention, then you will flaunt it to people and you will use it in that way. You will join a community, or you will use it to gain friends. If you want to use this as a medal of honor in order to show off to people and what other people think of you, then that's what you'll do. You'll use your coping mechanisms. So it's not that non-duality, what is the title again? Hang on, I just have to go back to it. Is non-duality avoidance, I think it is. So it's not that non-duality is avoidance, it's that the person will use it, if it's prone to avoidance, as detaching from people, as detaching from life, as detaching from your situation, your society. And because in non-duality, a lot of it is taught, the way in which it's talked about is detaching, but it's actually detaching from the personality structure. So it's not about the personality detaching from its work. It's about something beyond that, detaching from the work. But what often people do is they come into this, they've been hurt by work, so rather than try to find a more balanced perspective of way of dealing with it, rather than really allowing the pain that you're feeling in that circumstance. So say in work you've been demoted and you feel like it's really unfair, that a detached person might try to push that away. They're going to They start daydreaming about leaving the job, about going and traveling around the world, or going to work in a completely different industry. And that would be a detached person's response. Whereas actually what non-duality is talking is about being really real to your response. So really being there. So really experiencing that pain, that hurt, that rejection. And as you detach from the person, which is not detaching from your work, which is not detaching from your life, as you detach from the person, then there is more of a capability to accept those hardcore emotions of rejection. But what the detached personality type will do is it will hear that and it'll be like, oh yeah, job was never going to bring me happiness, so goodbye job, because that's what it's been wanting to do all the time, and then dreaming about a different experience or dreaming about how it's better than its job. And that's not what non-duality is teaching. Actually, non-duality is teaching this moment is freedom. And if you're there present in that demotion, in your work colleagues being mean to you, if you're really present to it, and you really feel the pain in the body, the vulnerability in the body, you're not in a story and in a fantasy, you're really present to the experience. And that's and the reason that that happens is because there's a detachment from, an energetic detachment from the personality structure. And so there is a sinking back into the experience. You're coming back to the experience. The avoidant personality structure is normally about seeking, like using time to get freedom in time. Like if I go to Hawaii and get a job in Hawaii, then I will be happy. So that's about like detaching. It's like this dream of getting away and escaping. If I become enlightened, then I will be happy. And that's about escaping. That's about seeking. Whereas non-duality is like really coming to the experience, like really being here. But it's not an effort. It's the way it is. That's your essence. Your essence is this empty watching that's watching and experiencing that personality, all its difficulties. And that seeking energy that wants to detach and wants to run away, that seeking energy is the belief that your freedom will come in time, whereas actually your freedom comes in the experience, in what's happening, in this. In this. Continue. I've just done still want to open Skype. It's an application. Okay, so we can move on to questions now. If you want to ask me a question, then my Skype address is LisaCairns12. So it's LisaCairns12. And if you would like to call in, please just put call me with nothing else so I can see it in the chat box, because I take preference to calls. If you want to call in, make sure you've got good internet connection and a headset, so a microphone and a headset so there's no feedback. And then maybe just check it. If you haven't used Skype for a while, like just check it. You go to Skype, you go to video and audio settings. So sorry, I wasn't clear. I just see somebody calling. So I'm just going to put do not disturb so you can't call. So if you want to call in, just put call me and I'll call you when I'm ready, because we're at different times. I'm a few, like 10, 20 seconds before you, and I'm doing different things, like I'm doing the introduction. So just put call me in the chat box and I'll call you when I'm ready. Yeah. And then also if you want to call in as well, like maybe just like have a few seconds to sit there, or minutes, and think, what is it that I really want to ask here? Okay, so I shall speak to this person.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, is it Apania?
Hi,
Hello.
Lisa.
Hey, have you got a headset and a microphone on?
Aparna.
Yeah, I think so Apana, so I've just hung up on you because, so I'll just tell you how it works. So first of all, you speak to me through Skype, not through YouTube, so I could tell you were speaking through YouTube. And I think you need to test your audio and you need to make sure that you've got a headset and a microphone because it was like really bad feedback. I'm not sure if everyone else could hear that, if it was just me. And maybe you could just do a Skype test call by going up to Skype settings, go to audio and video settings, and in there you'll do a Skype test call and just make sure that your audio is good. Thanks, Aparna. And I'd say you just do that and I'll call you back in a few minutes if you just try that. So I'm going to speak to you through Skype. So I could tell that you were like replying to me through YouTube because you were behind. Thanks, Aparna. So if you want to call, just put call me. So we'll go to a question from Malfred while Aparna works out how to do that. Dear Lisa, I sent you a question earlier today, but I never know whether you read the question when it was sent some hours ago. So I send it again. Okay, cool. Thanks, Malfred. Dearest Lisa, a question for this evening's talk. Awareness is aware of itself and consciousness recognizes itself within itself. In meditation and in awareness, there is a sense that there is someone, something even bigger and greater than awareness, like an ultimate outpouring source of life and love that just is and is constantly creating, and that awareness is created from this source, but that the source itself is not even aware of conscious or conscious, that all we perceive as person and also as awareness exists within the absolute one, but that awareness is not that last truth. Is this source what we would call God? Is God like a flowing river that never dries up, or we are or aware, or like the drops in the air above a waterfall being loses from the Is God like Is God like a flowing river that never dries up, and we, or awareness, are like the drops in the air above a waterfall being loose from the river for a while until the drops fall back into the river without the river itself being aware of it? With much love, Malfred. Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay. So I don't know if I fully understand your question because that was a complex question. So that which is conscious of itself has no perception of that. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. So the empty looking has no perception of itself. It's totally empty. It can't perceive itself, can't know itself, but yet it is itself. So what can sometimes happen, or most of the time happens, is that the one that's conscious can recognize that and can almost feel like that, and then that creates a divide. But if you really pay attention, you'll realize that that too is being witnessed. So any recognition of consciousness, any knowing of consciousness, any thought about consciousness, any feeling of consciousness is experienced. And that experiencer is empty. It's no thing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's total void. But yet it's all things. I don't know if that's the same as what you're trying to point to. You could say it's like absolute deep sleep, but yet it's happening as well. Yeah, maybe you can give some feedback. Maybe I don't fully understand the question because it's a complex question. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful question as well. Okay, so Aparna, did you manage to sort out your Skype? So just while I ask Aparna that, I'll just go on to Graham. Hi Lisa, a psychological question please. Sorry. My wife suffers badly from a fear of death, especially over the fear of something happening to our young daughter. COVID has made things very difficult for our day-to-day life as a family. The fear is largely irrational. I can't reason with her. Do you have any recommendations or resources that might help her? I think it's so complex, Graham, that I would recommend her going to a specialist in that, like a therapist that specializes in like anxiety, fear of death, these types of things, because I think that's so complex. I have books and things on my reference page if you go to my website and different things, but I don't think there's any simple answer to it. Like if she got really into non-duality, then I'm sure that would reduce. But yeah, it's really complex as to why somebody fears death. It's obviously always deeper than that. Like it's about the destruction of self. It's about your importance in the world. It's about your attachment issues, like the way you were treated as a young child, like whether you feel safe and attached in this earth, in this world, I mean. Yeah, so I wouldn't have the perspectives that I know what's best in that case. I think there's lots of people that like deal with that on a day-to-day, and they know how to deal with that and the effective ways to deal with it. If she got into non-duality, then I'm sure that would help, but that's a really personal thing. But yeah, I'm really sorry for you, Graham. It's really hard when somebody you're close to is dealing with mental health issues, and it can create a lot of pain in day-to-day living because you can't exactly like just talk her out of it. Yeah, that's very difficult. Yeah, so my sympathies are with you. So for you, for your perspective, it's just totally surrendering into this moment and just being really conscious and aware of like what's going on for you. It's not your job to fix her. It's not your job to make her happy. Like obviously that's a really beautiful thing to do for your partner, is to put effort into pleasing her, but it's not your job in the end. You aren't responsible for that. Yeah. Thank you, Graham. Hey, Aparna. Did you manage to fix it, Aparna? Did you test it and everything? Hey, Isabel. Oh, thank you. Das ist lovely. Das ist good. That is lovely. Okay, so Brian says, call me. Oh, Aparna. Okay, we try. Hey, Aparna. we go to Brian.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Brian.
Hey. All right, give me 1 second. So my question really relates to the topic. It was like the exact same. It's like when I feel peace in the body, and I feel it oftentimes in my heart and in my belly at the same time. I get this sense like in my head, there's like this manic energy that's like, oh, you're trying to avoid your emotions. And what the peace feels like is it like the emotions that were previously traumatic or resistance, those very emotions like turn to peace. It's like acceptance of them. And I'm like, okay, so do I trust that peace or try to figure out how to face the traumas, face whatever's like dormant in the personality. I'm like really on the fence because then it feels like I really don't know. And like there's just like it's hard to speak to it now because I don't really feel it present in the body at this time, but yeah, it just feels like, okay, follow the flow, or am I avoiding things? And there's like there'll be like a manic need to like understand. I'll be like, well, remember that talk from Lisa when she talked about dropping into the body, feeling the emotions. It's like there's a worry like underneath it that the personality structure is like deep down like really bad or narcissistic um, or is ignoring things, or I'm like not facing those traumas with a life situation or whatever, which I could see because I do act out things with people that are quite childish. Like I could see that, a lot of the ways that I interact with people, I was like, it's the little child within, like, um, I'll be having a normal conversation and I'm like, it's a little child within, like, pleading for love. Like, I'm like, this isn't, I'll be like, I'm not having conversations with people. I'm trying to like get things from people or in order to fulfill that. And I'm like, okay, so follow that flow and stay with the peace and just trust, or, also work with these dynamics, which seems very like heady and complicated in that moment. It's like, oh, that's, I have to figure that out. That's
Yeah, so there's two different things that are happening, I would say. There is the seeking energy, which makes all your dynamics more so. And the seeking energy is the belief that you will find love in the other person. And then there's
yeah,
your natural dynamics. So, and those are less intense and they're more in flow. And they will be dependent on your karma. And those dynamics will be to want love from other people. We do as humans. We want to be part of the group. We want to have something that we can offer to the group. We want to fit in. We want to be successful. We want to love the others. We want to have peace and harmony and intimacy. And this is part of being human. It's just like with Khaleesi, my dog, like part of being her dogness is that she wants to chase and kill rabbits. She is interested by things that squeak, because that's obviously like an animal dying. That sounds really awful, but she's a predator. Like she's interested in digging things because this is like hunting for animals. She's interested in playing with other dogs because they enact, like fighting, dominance. And they play games against each other. They've got social hierarchy. They want to be part of the group. They go towards the group. They want to be social. They want to play. They want to get on. They want to please. All these things. And it's the same as humans, except that we're not exactly like dogs. We've got different dynamics going on. And there is nothing wrong with that. And your responses will be to the world will be dependent on the way that you were parented, particularly the first 0 to 5 or 6 years. And then after that, it will be like put into motion more and more throughout your life. So the conditions that happen throughout your life. And then also you'll be affected by your genetics as well. That was before birth. So you could say your genetics are like past lives. And there is nothing wrong with these dynamics. So I would say, is it okay if I'd say that you're most probably your first 5 years of life were maybe a little difficult?
yeah, that's probably true.
Like
I can't really remember,
you
but
can't
yeah,
really remember, but if you look, like from what we've talked about in the past, I don't want to expose you too much on the internet, but from what we've talked about in the past, like there was maybe like a little bit of chaos, and maybe you didn't get the attention that you needed in those first 5
yeah,
years. So
yeah,
if that happens, then we develop. Everybody's developing survival techniques, but if you've had less stability in those first 5 or 6 years, then you develop more exaggerated and more like unconventional survival techniques
right.
to get attention, to do all these different things. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a worse person than the other. It's just karma, which is absolutely impersonal. Some people will have had more stable parents, which could reflect back like love, reflect back their emotions, like help mirror what they want or don't want, like all these different things which help a child create a stable sense of self, which is ironically
Right.
what we have to do, is we have to create
Yeah.
a stable sense of self. And people often, when they get into non-duality, they're like, I've got to kill that sense of self. That's not true. What happens is you detach from that sense of self. Like you
Right.
have to have a sense of self in order to interact with this society. Otherwise, like if you don't, your life will be chaotic. Just like if you haven't, as a child, developed a stable sense of self, your life will be more chaotic. You'll blow things up. You'll blow things up. I mean, as in like you'll self-destruct. You'll be very reactive to people.
So is it that you create a stable sense of self so you can kill it after, or like you just
No, I
create the
mean some
stable sense of
some
self?
people say that or not. Like that's just the way it is. But it's like your life is going to be more difficult if you haven't got a more stable sense of self. Because, so for example, to say if your mum taught you that if you say what you want, you will be punished, So if you say what you want,
Right.
they will punish you, which often happens because the parent wants to manipulate the child into doing what they want. It's actually an important process for the child to understand what it wants and explore what it wants. But often the
Right.
parents like play these games and kind of like manipulate or make the child feel bad, or like ignore it, just plain out ignore it. The child wants something. And it doesn't mean that you
Right.
have to give the child always what it wants, but you have to help the child navigate that and understand what it wants. So
Right.
it's like, so for
That didn't
example, like,
happen.
yeah. So for example, if the child comes up to the mum and says, I want a cookie now, like then the mother, like a great thing to do is to explore that with the child. So it's like, oh, I understand that you're hungry now and that you would like a cookie. No, I'm not hungry. I just want a cookie now. And so then the mother helps explore that. Okay, so I understand that you're not hungry. So it's, but you would like a cookie because it tastes good. And then the child's like, yeah, I want a cookie because it tastes good. And then the mummy's like, yeah, I understand. You know, like I want cookies because they taste good. But if we eat too many cookies, then we won't want our dinner later, which is more healthy for us. So you're kind of like, I mean, maybe that's not the best of example, but you're kind of like helping the child to understand that. It doesn't mean you give in and give the child a cookie. Maybe sometimes you do, but it's just helping the child understand what it wants.
Right.
Rather than like,
Yeah, I like that.
how dare you want a cookie? I've given you so much and now you want a cookie? You're being so spoiled. Which is often what will happen to a child, is it'll be like guilted into what it wants. Whereas your job, even when the kid's acting out like that in its twos and being like really demanding in what it wants, your job as the parent is just to reflect it back so the child understands what it wants and understands how to negotiate in the best way for what it wants. So another thing the mum could explain is like, or say to the child is like, you know, like another time. See, earlier when you came up to me, you were shouting at me about wanting the cookie. But when I come to you and say, I would like to play with your toy, how would you like me to say that? And it's just exploring. It's not like saying it's right or wrong. It's just exploring, reflecting back to the kid these appropriate behaviors, but also reflecting back to the kid that it's important to know what you want, because this is what creates the sense of self, ironically.
Right.
So then people get into non-duality and they're all like, they've had all this like shame around what they want and shame around their personality structure. So they get into it and they're like, yeah, the trick is to eradicate what we want and then we'll be happy. And that's kind of playing into that childhood dynamic, because your mum, maybe that's what your mum did, is like try to eradicate what you want. And that's not actually what non-duality is saying. Non-duality is trying to point out that there is a freedom beyond your wants. So when you're identified with the personality structure, what the person believes is that that my freedom comes in getting what I want. So my freedom comes in getting the cookie and getting the love and getting the attention. Your freedom actually is that which is looking. But a healthy human has to navigate what it wants in the world in like a friendly and open manner. So it's not alienating people. It's not like doing really destructive things. But at the same time, it's able to navigate that. If you can't navigate that, then you'll attract people that fill you up with their wants.
Right.
So like, or you'll be really extreme about it, and then you'll not really know what you want, but you'll be like really following what everyone else says. So just like money, sex, or something, and then you'll become the bully and fill someone else with your wants, but they're not really your wants.
Right. And I could see that. Like I was worried about that, like the personality structure and how it's functioning in the world and everything. And like, I'm seeing some of my dynamics with people and everything. And I'm like, that's actually, the way I treated that person or the way I listened to that person, that's actually, like I was doing it for this or that reason. And sometimes it'll be, I'll be like, that was really, it just seems messed up, I'm like, okay, it's confusing.
That is confusing, and that's the personality structure. So there's two different things that's happening. So that's the personality structure acting out, and that's because of your parenting in childhood. And that's the way your brain's grown. And then there is this other freedom that is watching that. And these are two different subjects, but what happens is the person is getting confused in that. So
Yeah.
the personality structure you need to fix with somebody that deals with personality structures. So, and it's not like an
Right.
easy thing. Like I've got personality issues, we all do, and like some of us having more severe and others have it less severe. But we all have personality issues.
Yeah. I'm working with you might know her, Suzanne.
Yeah, nice.
I'm working with Suzanne on my personality structure thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm attending Codependence Anonymous
Oh, nice.
to work on it as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so it's
yeah.
just seeing that. So that's, I mean, like you're doing everything. It's just that your guilt comes up around it,
Yeah.
which is most probably, you know, what your mom or your primary caregiver taught you, is that you're not doing
Yeah.
enough, that you're getting it wrong. But it's just seeing that that
Yeah.
is part of the thought structures. That's absolutely not true. That's not who you are. That's the way your brain fires. And the freedom is in the watching of that. The freedom is in that which it appears in is this moment. And those thought structures, the guilt, the shame, is going to create seeking, which will then elongate time and make you feel like you're a separate human that exists in time, which isn't true.
Yeah. And so when I feel like sort of that peace in the body, like in the heart and in the belly, I'm like, okay, can I give myself totally to this peace?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And it seems like total okayness. And it seems like in that like emotions are being processed, but it's like peaceful, you know, there's no,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah,
like,
totally.
it's not, you know, if there's no resistance, it seems like it's peace.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, you know, this is too easy. Do I need to work on the personality structure? Do I need to look at
So
this or
when
that?
you
You know,
feel,
the
when you
mind
feel,
comes in.
yeah, so when you feel at peace, just go with that. And then when you feel less at peace, then work on the personality structure. But even in this, like, so if you're saying that you've got more codependence tendencies,
Yeah, avoidant, codependent.
avoidant codependent, I don't
Ironically.
know so much all the details of this,
Yeah.
but something that you will be wanting to do is always looking for how to do it from the external. Or one thing that will happen, I don't know actually about avoidant codependent, I don't know so much about it, but I can imagine like something that will happen is that you're looking for someone else to give you the answer because there's a deep belief that you don't know or that you'll be wrong. And that's absolutely not true. I get the sense that you do know, that you're very wise, that you're very intelligent.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And very perceptive of your dynamics.
Yeah.
This is another part that doesn't believe it because that's the way you were parented.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So to working on the personality structure, like it seems kind of vague to me sometimes. I'm like, okay, so I hold the emotion, um, and then look at the stories, but the stories, like, it's not a mental thing, right? Like, it's not like you're like, okay, I have to figure out these stories, because sometimes I do that. It seems like if I hold the emotion, like the stories just kind of come up. If I inquire into it, they kind of just like come up.
Yeah.
And then is bringing it to consciousness, is that like enough? Because I know I can bring it into like the positive or, you know.
Yeah. All of those things are great. Like bringing it into consciousness, getting to know it, moving it into the positive, understanding the attachments to the past. But I would also just become really conscious of this dynamic or this thought that's coming up, like I don't know how to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know the best way. Like you do know the best way.
But it's not like a mental knowing, right? That's because maybe I'm just resisting, but like because when I hear they're two separate things, like working on the personality structure and dropping into consciousness, it's I guess my question is like it seemed to me, or maybe I want it to be like one thing, where it's like when I drop into consciousness, it seems like things just come up and process themselves, and the human dynamics like figure themselves out. But I don't know if that's true or not. And I can see in saying that like I'm not trusting myself, and then it's a mental, turn it into a mental thing at the same time.
I would say it's like it's fear coming up in you that you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And in the end, like, I don't know the best way for you.
Right.
I don't know the best way for anyone. There's just things that are being suggested. Like, in a way, it's illusionary best way. I think there's definitely better techniques to help settle down the person.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's important for, well, at least right now. So, because even maybe it's, yeah, it is, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is fear of like thinking that I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the best way. I can't like trust myself.
Yeah.
That's also like the manic or like OCD kind of thinking
Yeah,
when I
totally.
try to figure things out. Yeah.
And it's also like the same as
Cool.
you can imagine, like a child constantly being told that it doesn't know what to do, that it's stupid or that it shouldn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
So you can see why those thought patterns would grow, and they simply are thought patterns. And it's like so you can watch the videos that I put out, and I talk often about like exploring the person. And I also find that a lot of non-duality teachers speak in the same way, but you can also go to a therapist that specializes in like attachment issues or personality issues, codependency. And if you're in Holland, then you can put it through the government, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm in the US right now, and I think Suzanne, she also did Codependence Anonymous. So
Oh,
she's
she's
kind of my
amazing.
she's kind of my sponsor right
Oh,
now. So
nice. Yeah.
guess
So, but you can watch stuff on the
therapist.
internet, like you can read books. But in the end, like I think that there's a place in you that does know what you want and does know what to do. Like the more that you meditate and the more that you get into that and uncover it, like there's that
Right.
child that did know what it wants and does know how to do things. It's great
Yeah.
having Suzanne. It's great like having all these other things to stop you like wobbling over the edge because of the fear and the insecurity. But I think there's a deeper place in the person, and it does know what it wants and what it doesn't want. It's just uncovering that.
Right. Yeah, that's a beautiful reflection to hear from you, actually. So thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
really appreciate it. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lisa.
With pleasure, Brian. Thank
All right.
you.
Yeah, thank
Lots
you
of
so
love.
much.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Okay, so if you want to call in, I take preference for calls, then please put call me. Okay, so I'll just read out Aparna's question because she wants to call in, but I don't think she knows how to use Skype. I'm very bad with technology. I'm putting my question here. I am hearing your talks for the past 2 months. I had an awakening experience last year, and it was clear that I am not the watcher. Like everything is seen by divine, expansive, full of love. But I feel as a person, my personality structure hurts people. Hey, Aparna. Yeah, then that's great to realize on the human level. So it's really beautiful that you had the awakening experience, and I'm so happy that that has been recognized. And that doesn't fix the personality structure. It can help shift a lot of things, but it doesn't fix it, as you realize. So if you want help with your personality structure, then the best thing to do would go to a therapist which specializes in that. Write to therapists and look and tell them that you know, you have personality structure which hurts people, and then try to work out what it is that is appearing in you, like what dynamics are appearing in you that do that. There could be all types of different personality structures and ideas and thoughts in place that do it. But as humans, we also do hurt each other and we do collide. But it's often based on what you were taught in childhood. So yeah. Nice. Thank you, Aparna, for your question. Hi, Thomas. Love the Wim Hof method. An amazing and transformational tool derived by Tumo meditation. So awesome that you're advocating it. Ah, nice. Yeah, I love that too. Hey, Nick. Oh, that looked like an owl. Owl rainbow. Oh, I'm cold. I have to get up and put the radiators on. Hi, Oedipus. Hey, Lisa, I would like to ask what happens to sexual energies, Libo, after awakening. Osho said that they are transforming into spiritual energy. Is it as it is? Thanks. I think that in awakening experiences, like loads of sexual energy can come up, like unconscious sexual energy, unconscious sexual dynamics, past life sexual dynamics, collective humanities dynamics. And I think it's to do with Kundalini energy. So when you have awakening, often Kundalini energy shifts in your body, but I don't really understand it. I think you'd have to go to a Kundalini expert. But I often find when people have had like energetic shifts, they often have like a shift in their sexuality. Like I remember one friend who had an awakening. We went to yoga together, and at the end of it, she was like, "Gosh, that yoga was so sexual." And I was like laughing my head off because I knew that was just like her perception of it. Like the yoga was just yoga, it was the same as the yoga we did the day before. And she thought it was like more sexual yoga. Yeah. So I found that a lot of unconscious stuff came up for me, and also a lot more like flexibility and playing, and like in the past where I'd find things dirty, gross, that kind of disappeared, and it became like very orgasmic for me personally. And I find that now, like what I'm really interested in sex, in making love, even though I can get into like image-based sex as well, like what I find is like when the two energies like really connect, so you really like are present to each other's energies. Yes. I don't know if that helps at all, Oedipus. Carmela. But remember, hi Carmela, thank you, love and gratitude. I like your hair. Oh, you have a butterfly on your hair. I thought you'd grown a bit of hair on top of your hair. That's nice. But just remember, with all these answers I give, you know, like my expertise is non-duality. And I'm so happy to talk about all these other things, but please take it with a pinch of salt, because I'm not an expert in these other subjects. I kind of like go into it, and what I've realized from people awake, I go into it because I'm interested. But what I realize from people awakening is that they have so many different experiences. Yeah. So when I talk about it with you, you know, like it's so different for everyone. I don't know if it's the same, and I don't know the best way to fix personality structures. Like I feel like even in psychology, like the best recommendation for the shift in trauma is like to feel it, to really feel it in the body, and to like speak about it, like to speak that energy out, to be honest with it, and then to do a transformation on it. But so I really advocate that, and I feel like that's how a lot of energy shift in my body with past traumas. But yeah, take it all with a pinch of salt. Like if that works for you, if that floats your boat, then that's perfect. And if it doesn't, then throw it in the trash. Okay. So if you want to call me, please call me. I'm just going to turn the radiator on and go to the toilet, and then I will call Barbara. So I'll just put yes to Barbara. So, and I will be back. Hello, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Well,
I can't hear you. I can just hear a very tiny whisper.
whisper. It's butter. It's a butter. Like butter in you.
I can. Are you saying is it louder? I don't think it's not loud enough. I think I've got my volume up to the max.
Okay. I don't know what I can do.
I can hear like a slight whisper. I can like vaguely hear you, but I think it needs to be a bit louder.
Okay. Maybe.
Hello?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better. Have you taken your headset out?
Yeah.
Okay, we can try and see if it works. Like sometimes that works. Sometimes it creates a lot of feedback though.
Okay. So you tell me if it's uncomfortable, and I will try to change something. Okay. So thank you for being there.
Yeah, that's a pleasure.
So I will try. Please be a little patient because my English is not so good.
It sounds really good to me. But yeah, sure, we can take the time and we can do it slowly.
Okay, so I will try to express quickly a little bit of my latest experiences.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, I had like 4 major experience, spontaneous, because I never did yoga, meditation, or I am not spiritualized, like involved with spirituality. So it was very disorganizing for me, for my personality, because I had no reference to it. And from this first one, which was energetic, experienced like in the dawn, like in bed, like between sleep. So I woke and felt this huge waves like of energy through my body.
Yeah.
And with many qualities of it, like cold or like burning cold, and they were very disorganizing to the mind because I couldn't think, and words stop making any. I lost touch with words and meanings, and I couldn't be like, I couldn't filter the experience with myself. So I was struggling with so much fear, like terrifying fear. But then at some point, I just let go the that that necessity of, I don't know, the clinch, the attachment to having control of it. So I lost control, and it was like going to sleep after. So when I woke up again from this first one, I could like recollect or remember some of it that happened in that like nothing state, and it was very geometric. I remember some circles, and it's very difficult to put in words. So after that, I was like 4 days, and my sense of my perception changed completely. Like all my body was lighter, and was like, it's all my cells have this charge, like they are all charged, and they weren't before, with energy, like with all warm and like
Yeah.
all the time. Like it's just, it's permanent. So and my vision, like my eyes, they can see stuff, and they can unsee stuff. So if I, with open eyes, I just relax my sight, object starts to disappearing. Like, well, just some effects I'm naming just for you to can like be situated. So I the sense of an I, a me, was there after this one, and then well, it took long to explain this one, so I will like jump to the fourth one, which was like 5 days ago. So in that one, I think it's what you guys, all the internet and everyone calls awaken, because I can find well, it was amazing because it was like completely freedom of this place that I imagined I was locked in. And when I when now when right now I'm tuning into my body mind system, it's just this huge layers of patterns and memories and imagination, thoughts. It's like there is nothing more like claiming like like an advantage claim point. So it feels free because everything that is inside my body and mind and imagination and memory, it's just like the same, because they are just like some, like everything else, like the objects or what I can see and the table and the air, like it's the expression of everything. So there is not like I can't even remember how it was, but I'm just happy because this feels so good. So
Yeah, nice.
so good.
And what is your objective in telling me this? Like, I'm really happy for you that
Yes,
you've had all these like shifts and stuff, but just because like we have quite a few people listening, and they most probably like want to get to something.
Yeah, I wanted to share because this is the first time I'm telling this to anyone, and
now you're like telling. So you're telling it one time, but you're telling it to like about 1,000 people, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's your 1,000th time as well.
Yeah, I just I felt the interaction. This all came to me like synchronistic way. You and so I just was recollecting it to get to the point where I could like ask a question in a context.
Yeah.
So
and it's beautiful. I'm so happy that that all happened to you. Like it is really beautiful, these awakenings. And they're very personal. Like everybody's awakening is really different, but it's like really ecstatic. Like you realize and you experience things that you didn't know were possible. So I really get that excitement. I'm not meaning to like put it down. Like it's really
okay. Thank you. Yes, I just
party poppers.
Yeah, I couldn't name it, and so I start like searching for reference. So I found you. I didn't even know what to search for exactly the words, and now I'm navigating with all these many people in the world, and there's Buddha and non-duality and such fresh words, and it's all beautiful. But okay, so I'm getting to the question, but I'm really grateful to you for being there, and grateful for this interaction. No matter the question.
Yeah, nice, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So the personality structure seems to me like this huge amount of many patterns, like informational patterns, like conditioning, like millennia, I don't know, like many time more than millennia, like forever. So to get to this point when everything is like getting together in a body, in a human body, and we ask like, okay, I have to have relations with my mother and partner and father and family and society and my work. And now my question is related to what you were trying to discuss before, but I want to like put something more to it. So in the subject of healing,
I just feel like when you say you're just going to put a little bit more to it, like I just feel a little conscious of everybody listening. Hang on, just let me see if that's true actually.
Okay.
Like just 1 second, let me check in with myself.
Okay.
Like it just brings up a little bit of like discomfort in my body when you said that. So I just see what's happening.
Oh, sorry.
One second. No, it's okay. Just give me a second and I'll see if I can get to a root of what's going on with me. Yeah, I feel like if we were in a one-to-one session, I would let you go for it and I would let you say everything you want to say because like it's you know, it's your personal experience and it's beautiful and I don't want to disvalidate it. Like I don't want to take that away from you. But just because we're not in a one-to-one session, we're in a live stream with lots of people watching, I just become conscious of the length of the question for people. Like it sometimes can be difficult for people to listen to very long questions and not get to it. It's not for me. Sometimes it is for me. But so if you could just like
I was in the edge of the question.
Yeah, so... okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sorry, I said like more. It was the wrong word. It was just I want to put a question like in the top of the question that was already made. So it's just I was just asking a question when you stopped.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the more essential question would be like, what is memory, and how can we decondition like whatever pattern we get in touch with.
Yeah.
So I would bring this more like to your experience, because there is no answer to everyone. So
Yeah.
because it's fascinating to me, this question, like we have a trauma, I have like this fight and flight condition and pattern. So my body, when you stopped me and said uncomfortable words, was just like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I think that
So
would be for a lot of people. It's quite hard to do this, like with
yeah.
lots of people watching. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong. So the child comes up, oh, I'm blah, 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 blah. So the body mind comes with the memory. So the memory is so unphysical and yet is so strongly felt in every parts of the body, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, awareness can like shed a light in everything, like loving and true. So what do you feel it for you, like in your experience, how can we decondition the personality, like
Yeah.
the
Decondition.
trauma
Yeah.
or dysfunctional
Yeah.
memory
Yeah.
patterns?
Yeah, that's really nice. So I would say that, like back to your first question, like what is memory? Like that's so fascinating. It's like it's like something that arises in the physiological body, and it doesn't seem to have a starting point. So even though you could say that the body has like a starting point when it's born, it seems like we have information in our body that goes back right to the beginning of time. So not only do we have like the memories of this life and the information from our parents and the information that we've learned at school, there's also like a deeper genetic information that we know that is in all of us. But there's this really amazing film called Lucy, and I just really loved like this idea. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
In the film, it's like has this idea of accessing all her brain, and that she could access like all memory, kind of going back to the beginning of time, and it's really beautiful. I don't think that we have the possibility for that in this life, but I do feel like our body has so much memory in it, like so much information. And so then the next question, and so to me, memory kind of in a way comes from everything. Like it comes from everything that's ever happened, and we hold it in our body, in our cells, in our DNA. And it's happening so instantaneously, our memory. So right now, like the ability to comprehend what I say, like the ability to know that you're sitting in this room, like all of that's memory. And consciousness, like our true essence, doesn't need memory in order to function, but it's watching memory. So it's watching this experience. So, and then the recondition of it, I think my main way of reconditioning me personally for myself, and it's something that I still do and I find very effective, is that you go down to the feeling in the body. So say if you're having trauma, like, when I stopped you, like it's going, like you have that adrenaline. Like if you wanted to explore that, you go into where you felt that in the body. So say the adrenaline started and then you felt like a kick in your heart area. So you put your attention into the heart area and you begin to ask what the heart says. Like, so what is it that my heart is saying now? Like, and you begin to let it speak.
Words or just energetically, like where energy wants to go, what it wants to do, or with words and meanings, like meanings.
Yeah, with first I would go into the energy, so I would go into like the feeling, like what, like really putting your attention into that feeling, the contraction, the energy of it, and then I would begin to let words and memory come. So it's like finding what words exist there. So it's like, so what words vibrate with that energy? And so maybe like if I just did it quickly with you, maybe it's like, I'm not being heard, or I'm not being listened to, or people don't love me, or people think I'm stupid, or I got it wrong, or I did something bad. So it's then putting words to it and kind of getting to know the story, then bringing images in. So where did I hear that before? So I heard it from my boyfriend when he speaks to me about technology, or I heard it from my parents when I was growing up, or it's my dad's temper, or it's my mum's voice. So putting it to images and memories of when you've experienced that in the past, and letting the energy build. Like sometimes it will decrease, but letting the energy build and just feeling it and just becoming comfortable with it. Just becoming comfortable with that discomfort. And then at some point when you're ready, tell yourself the opposite story. So the story is saying to itself, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm stupid. So it's then telling yourself the opposite story, like I am intelligent, I am lovable, I am clever, people love me, people accept me, people want to hear me, I am listened to, I am loved. And then you can even think of scenarios, fantastical, so imaginary scenarios. Or you can think of experiences that you've actually had where you felt loved, like where you felt heard, where you, or imagining it. So imagining like who you'd want to listen to you. So maybe you imagine like Muji, or you imagine like the Buddha listening to you. And it's basically turning that energy into the opposite energy. So it's like, to me, that's like a reconditioning, and that's my go-to technique. There is other techniques like breathing techniques and other techniques which I also think are helpful. But to me, that's my go-to technique, and that's what I've used for years. And I do it now, like if I have a difficult energy. And so like with you, like when we were talking, like after a while, I began to feel like a little bit of like discomfort. Like not because you did anything wrong, it's nothing to do with you. You were just doing your flow. And I felt a bit of discomfort. And so then there was an urge in me to say something, but I wasn't exactly sure what my discomfort was about. So I just asked you to give me a moment. And then I checked in with my body and I asked my body, what's uncomfortable here? And it was because there was two energies. There was, if I was in a one-to-one session with you, there was like part of me that felt like you just wanted to express yourself and be heard. And there's part of me that was happy to do that. But because I was aware that there was other people listening and that's not exactly the right place for it, there was like a bit of conflict. And then I expressed that, and then the energy in me passed. And I'm so sorry if it hurt you.
No, don't be sorry.
It wasn't
I totally
my intention, but I also understand that
it was important to me because I was really trying to get like quickly and it didn't work because I just talked too much. But that part when I said, oh, I want to put more to it, my God, it was the wrong words.
Totally.
I completely understood you, and there was no it was, everything made sense to me.
And there's just this little adrenaline. So it's like when you get in that situation. So I've been in that situation. My partner sometimes tells me that I've over-talked in situations, like if I'm a little bit nervous or something. I don't always notice that I'm doing it. And so when they tell you, like there's maybe like a little bit of a kick, and then it's like that's just a feeling, like really I or you have done nothing wrong. It's just our response. It was what we were taught in childhood. It's what we know. And in the end, our deepest goal is always to connect, not just you, but everybody in the human level. Like we want to connect. We want to be in loving relationships. We want to feel good with each other. And everybody's trying to do that. Even if they end up screaming and shouting at someone, that's actually their goal. And when you reconnect with that, so my partner says, oh, you over-talked in that. Or that's what he says that to me sometimes. There's like the little kick, and then there's a coming back to like what I really want is to connect with people. There's a knowing that a defense arose, and seeing that and being honest with it. And there's a good chance I did over-talk, I'm not sure. So just holding that, like you can't always tell when you've ever talked because it's finished. But there's a holding that, and there's an openness to that's what you've done. And And then there's like the connecting to what I wanted on the deeper level is not to hurt anyone or not to bombard anyone. It was like I wanted to connect. Like that's what we really want. And that's really beautiful when you come down to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so with your partner, and here goes another question, but you can like just don't answer or end the call, but how non-duality, like the detached non-awareness, relates with like having a partner in the lens of attachment, like how this goes for you, this dance?
Yeah, I feel like if we begin to talk about this, then I might cross boundaries with my partner. You know,
but
so he
maybe
might not,
mother or anyone, like, or maybe just in general mode, like when someone have a close relation, and how the attachment, how can we navigate through healthy attachment, like not being like, you know, like
totally. It's a great question.
like cringed, but everyone, like
and just to go back to my partner, I've talked about him on live streams before, and like it's something that I aspire not to do because it's his personal experience, but I do forget sometimes. So I've just remembered this time that I'm not to do that. I'm with my family and everybody. But when you are a live streamer or you do something on the internet, it's sometimes hard to not talk about people. Like, so you can imagine you end up slipping into doing it. So I think it's a really great question. And I think it's just learning about what it is you want and what it is you feel. So like having a secure sense of self, and a secure sense of self is knowing what you want and what you don't want, and then learning how to communicate that. So there's on my reference page, there's a psychologist under the psychologist section called Dr. Kirk Honda, and he's like a relationship psychologist. And he on YouTube, what he does is he watches reality TV, but then he talks about the best ways to relate and attachment theory. And this is a really great way to learn about how to communicate with your partner. And to me, it's like a tendency which I've done in the past, and I'm sure a lot of people that have awakening to do, is not to use non-duality as an excuse to fall into old patterns or to allow your patterns. So my pattern tends to be a bit of an avoidant personality, and I know that I can use non-duality to be a bit avoidant. And so it's just knowing that and bringing that into consciousness, and and allowing your partner, your friends, your family to call you up on that. So expressing it to them, telling them that that's a tendency, and if they see you doing it, like they can call you up on it, which is great. One way to do it. And then also just learning, like watching, paying attention to interactions, like reading these types of books of how to communicate, and just being really present to what your body's saying. And that's an endless process. Like we can endlessly evolve to be better people, like better integrated.
Okay. So that's it.
Thank you so much for your question.
Happy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm so happy to hear about your awakening. It's so beautiful when these things happen. Like you tend to like excuse the language, but when it happened to me, I was like, holy fuck,
about this. Like no one at all. So I'm just searching people to talk about it.
Yeah, totally. And it's really beautiful. It really is like life changing, and you just can't believe that life could be so different.
So thank you so much, and I'm sorry everyone if I talked too much, but okay, so we are all in love, so it's okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, nice. Yeah, lots of love, Barbara. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, sweet. Nice. Okay, so I'll go now, but I haven't finished all the questions. There's still lots of questions in my Skype box. So if I haven't answered them, please send them again next time, 6 p.m. French time, next Sunday. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you, and I love you loads, and I wish you all the best. I wish you everything, not just one thing or two things or three things, everything. And I shall see you next Sunday.